What a night last night. I don't even know really where to start. Certainly going to talk about the drama we were involved in with CNN because of last night's debate. But before I get to that, let's just talk about the debate itself. I am going to say things that might shock you about Marianne Williamson's performance last night, given what I said about her a couple of weeks ago. But before we get to that, we were wondering, in terms of the debate in general, night one, debate two last night, would Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren together be bad for the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, or would it be good? My thought was that it would be good, and indeed it was very, very, very good. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders last night completely dominated the first night of the second presidential debate. They did a stunningly good job of making it clear that they are not the radicals. Their ideas are not the ideas outside of the mainstream, and that opposing their ideas is increasingly what's radical, which was exactly my hope. My idea was, when I had a video answer, I did a audience question about this last week. My idea was that having both of them up on the stage together, rather than each as the lone sort of strong progressive on two different stages, that having them together would create the idea that there is this very strong, well thought out, mature contingent of the Democratic primary that is adults in the room with serious, well thought out ways to accomplish the more progressive ideas that have been mainstreamed over the last couple of years, which includes healthcare, inequality, taxation, the military, tuition, free college, or college paid for through taxation. And both of them on the stage together did exactly that. Warren and Bernie had, number one, a strong coalition of the progressive part of the Democratic Party. And number two, they had a bunch of what I call debate kill shots. And I hate that this is how debates are evaluated, but both of them had good ones. The format of these debates, sadly, doesn't allow for depth because there's too many candidates, the answers are too short, and the topics are too wide in one evening to really go in depth. There should be, the ideal thing would be 5 candidates for an hour and a half just on economics, 5 candidates for an hour and a half just on foreign policy. It's not what we had, so you've got to look at who had these kill shots. And both Bernie and Warren came prepared. And their biggest victory was making the point that their ideas should be the norm, not the exception. Let's look at a few of these moments. One such moment was when John Delaney started playing the role of the enlightened pragmatist who isn't going to fall for the unrealistic ideas of Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. And Elizabeth Warren shut it down. Take a look.
So I think Democrats win when we run on real solutions, not impossible promises. When we run on things that are workable, not fairy tale economics.
You know, I don't understand why anybody goes to all the trouble of running for president of the United States just to talk about what we really can't do and shouldn't fight for.
Another instance, Bernie Sanders straight up telling Jake Tapper, your question is a right-wing talking point, which sadly was too common last night. I'm going to delve more into that. This was just a very good move by Bernie. Jake Tapper asking candidates if they're in favor of increasing taxes on the middle class to pay for Medicare for all. And Bernie said, Jake, that's a Republican talking point. And by the way, for-profit healthcare companies are advertising on CNN right now.
And Jake, your question is a Republican talking point. At the end of the day, and by the way, the healthcare industry will be advertising tonight on this program.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Warren, it's your turn.
Oh, can I complete that, please?
Your time is up, 30 seconds.
They will be advertising tonight with that talking point.
Senator Warren.
Elizabeth Warren said in no uncertain terms that white supremacy has to be called domestic terrorism. Yes, this is fantastic. I've been saying this for years, and it should be called domestic terrorism. And there were a lot of zeros and ones on yesterday's debate stage who were desperate because they know this is their last shot. To make it into the third debate in early September, in the middle of September, they need at least 2% in 4 different polls, plus 130,000 total donors, with no fewer than 400 donors from each of 20 states. So a lot of these zeros and ones went in thinking, I'm just going to pick a fight with anybody I can pick a fight with. Delaney with Warren was one example. Here's Tim Ryan trying to get one over on Bernie Sanders on Medicare for All, and Bernie doesn't have a second of it. He shuts it right down.
Two things. They will be better because Medicare for All is comprehensive. It covers all health care needs for senior citizens. It will finally include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
But you don't know
Second of all.
You don't know that,
Second
Bernie.
of all.
We'll come to you in a second,
I do know, and
Congressman.
I wrote the damn bill.
Boom. Bernie also, by the way, like Warren, calling out the people who say we can't do all of this stuff. Take a look at that.
I get a little bit tired of Democrats afraid of big ideas. Republicans are not afraid of big ideas. They could give $1 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires and profitable corporations. They could bail out the crooks on Wall Street. So please don't tell me that we cannot take on the fossil fuel industry and nothing happens unless we do that.
The theme here was, number one, Bernie plus Warren clearly developing the sort of elder statesman, progressive wing status within this Democratic primary. That's a really good thing, showing the strength of the progressive movement and of progressive ideas, making those who oppose their ideas look, quite frankly, very uninformed and very ignorant. Another theme was sadly terrible moderation. Bernie called out that one question as a Republican talking point. There were actually many of these questions when they were talking about paying for college through taxes. Some candidates want to pay for 2 years, associate's degree, like I think Beto O'Rourke. Some candidates want to do 4 years, but tuition only, whereas other candidates have the idea of more comprehensive room and board and books and fees even, which are quite high, being covered through taxation. But invariably, this thing comes up about if there's free college for everyone, you're also paying for free college for rich kids who we don't need to be paying for. Some of the Dems sort of agreed with that, actually. I think Amy Klobuchar, going from memory, didn't immediately shut down that concern as she should have. This is a silly distraction, and it's the fault of the moderators and, to some degree, the Democratic candidates could have done a better job of exposing the question as problematic. This was in, yesterday I did my 2020 anti-playbook for Democrats, what not to do if you're trying to defeat Donald Trump. Don't get involved in losing debates. Every social welfare program has some free riders, either people who don't really need the benefit but are getting it anyway, and or people who are lying in order to get a benefit they shouldn't actually qualify for. In this particular case with, quote, free college, but what we really mean is college paid for through tax revenues that are connected. The very rich kids are likely not even interested in going to the state schools that would be tuition free under these plans. We're talking about a tiny fraction of the money that such a plan would cost. We don't need to worry about it. That's just the reality. Harvard and Yale aren't covered by these plans. We're talking about state public colleges and universities. It is a distraction from the huge stimulative effect and huge value that would come from people not coming out of college in crazy student loan debt. If you come out of college in crazy student loan debt, you are paying interest to banksters. That's not economically stimulative. If you come out of college without student loan debt, yes, college may have been paid for partially or fully through taxation. You are immediately taking your wages and contributing them back into the economy, not to banksters, but to local businesses and in ways that are actually economically stimulative instead of interest paid to big banks. So that was just, again, the framing of the debate completely wrong. Now, I also have to drastically change my view about Marianne Williamson. And I know that some people are worried about that because they're like, no, your view last week was the right one. Marianne Williamson's very quirky. She has no shot. She has the background as a new age guru, which I am not a fan of. But she actually did really well last night because she stayed away mostly from her woo-woo new age stuff. Bernie and Warren definitely won the debate. We could argue about who did better than the other, could go either way. But Marianne Williamson's performance was clearly the third place performance. Here she is wackily talking about a dark psychic force, but she actually sounds quite strong here and gets a good reaction.
If you think any of this wonkiness is going to deal with this dark psychic force of the collectivized hatred that this president is bringing up in this country, then I'm afraid that the Democrats are going to see some very dark days. We need to say it like it is. It's bigger than Flint. It's all over this country. It's particularly people of color. It's particularly people who do not have the money to fight back. And if the Democrats don't start saying it, then why would those people feel that they're there for us? And if those people don't feel it, they won't vote for us, and Donald Trump will win.
Listen, she seems to always be on the edge of claiming that we will solve our problems by holding crystals, but she was actually quite strong yesterday in her presentation. She's polling 0.3%. I don't know what it's going to do for her, but she at least put in a good performance. And there was this just general deficit of a format that really allows deep conversation. And in playing the game, Marianne Williamson did well for herself. That being said, she's wacky, and people get mad at me for saying this. People ask me what I mean. Check out just one example, okay? In one of her books, she says sickness is not a sign of God's judgment, but of our judgment on ourselves. We get sick if we judge ourselves. And then she later says in the same page that sickness is merely an illusion that doesn't exist. Her 2010 weight loss book recommends sage cleansing your kitchen and praying yourself thin. And she once tweeted, God is big, swine flu small. See every cell of your body filled with divine light. Pour God's love on our immune systems. Truth protects. This is insanity. It's insanity, but she's funny in the debates, and I liked her presence, and the crowd was reacting positively to her. And she was clearly in third place. And I guess I would say Buttigieg sort of able to tread water and do okay in some spots. I would say putatively in fourth place, although I don't know how much it will do with him, for him. Tonight, we have Biden with a bunch of other people. I will be streaming live commentary on Twitch at twitch.tv/David Pakman. I hope you will follow me there. And next, I want to talk about why I will be streaming on Twitch.